Dinky is a podcast where two pals just won't shut the F up about being child-free and the dink lifestyle. I'm Erica, and I don't have kids because, well, quite a conundrum. Oh, if I had kids, like, when would I have time to take care of all my hundreds of houseplants?
Yeah, that's a good one. Took you a minute, but
suffer.
You got there.
They'd be dead.
And I'm Kristen, and I don't have kids because I don't want to stop watching my little TV shows that are inappropriate for children. Like,
Ooh, you watching a lot of porn around
all my
the house?
true crimes, all my little terrifying nature documentaries about apocalypses. That's where I'm at. I can't imagine not watching my stuff for them.
I know, and I feel like literally every parent I know, it's like they have kids, they never watch TV again. You're like, oh, did you watch this show? They're like, when?
No. A lot of times they're like, I have 30 minutes to an hour to watch my shows, and I'm with my partner, and we have to watch the show together. You can't just watch your shows anymore,
No,
you know?
No. You don't have shows. Well, okay. 2 years ago on Reddit, user dettispaghetti wrote on the truechildfree subreddit on a post titled, "Euthanasia will be an option when we're old and decrepit," saying, seriously, the answer to the age-old question of who will change your diapers when you're old is no one. People will not be dying, agonizing, cancer deaths in a few decades either. Whenever people have asked me this, I have always told them I am never going to be an old hag suffering in pain, regardless of whether I have children or not. Euthanasia is already becoming legalized in more and more places, and by the time we're old, it will be widely available and accessible to old people who can't fend for themselves. I would never waste my money or my children's money paying for assisted living or whatever. Even if I had kids, that money would go to them instead of prolonging my misery. Some people sell their houses so they can pay for assisted living, which is a waste of your life's work, and you are taking that money from whoever would inherit the house. This point of view will be the norm when we're old. Quality of life is what is important, not quantity. So, today, we're talking about physician-assisted death. The practice of receiving essentially legalized suicide support to end your life on your terms. We'll be looking at the pros and cons, where it's actually legal, and more. But first, a natural transition. We gotta dink ourselves.
Yeah, I feel like every time we talk about dinking ourselves, we're transitioning away from death and doom. Dink yourself! YOLO!
A dink is a dual-income, no-kid household, so naturally we're making bad choices with our disposable income. In this weekly segment, we chat through the frivolous and ridiculous purchases or hobbies that we couldn't afford if we had kids. So, Kristen, how have you been dinking yourself lately?
I don't think I shared this with the pod yet, that I have gone back to wine tasting classes. I'm not sure. So for those who probably don't know, I used to be a participant in a wine tasting group up in Seattle for literally years. I used to do it every week. And then I got my sommelier certification, which is requires a bunch of blind tasting and theory and all this stuff. And I kind of stopped going. I moved cities and I didn't have a new group. So I finally have decided to get back into it. And I went to my first wine tasting group this past 2 weeks ago. I forget how it was. And it's $35 and you go, it's you have to go before 7. So I showed up at 5:30 right after work and tasted 6 different wines. It's all blind tasting and amazing wines, amazing little shop, great person who's studying for her master sommelier, which is the highest level of certification you can get in the somm world. So anyway, it's cool. I'm excited to get back into it. And she recommended 3 different bottles of wine after I finished that I bought, of course, because I have no filter to not buy things I don't need. And so there you go. I spent $150 that day. So it was fun. I had a good time.
First of all, I must say, I don't have my regular headphones on. I have little earbuds in.
It's so weird because I have never not had my regular headphones when recording Dinky.
I was going to say this also.
And I changed mine. I changed mine to earbuds today.
Right.
This is the first time I've ever done that.
Sam.
What the hell?
First of all, I'm not loving it.
Why?
Second of all, I just like lightly grazed my ear and all kinds of stuff was happening. And so I didn't hear the first half of that, but I'm sure it was fantastic and I can't wait to hear it on the recording.
Yeah, I just did blind tasting stuff and spent money on wine. The end.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Any favorite wines?
Oh man, she gave me like a 2002 Pinot Noir from Burgundy, which I'm still flabbergasted. And she was like, "Don't say I didn't never do anything nice for you," as she gave it to me. But
Wait, she just gave you
so
the whole
good.
thing? The bottle?
No. Oh my God, no. So she like has like a pump that like siphons from a bottle and she does it behind like a cupboard so I can't see. And then I have to guess what it was. That was my favorite. Really good. And I did a good job. It's been like 8 years since I've really consistently blind tasted and I felt really proud of myself. She was like, "You did great," like for somebody who hasn't tasted in a long time. So I felt good. Yeah.
Congratulations, baby.
Anyway, how did you dink yourself?
Well, I just want to clarify, I still am in dink jail, but all of the chatter in our Switzerland Discord is just making me fucking worried about what the hell I'm going to wear on this trip.
Yeah.
Everyone has really gotten in my head, and I don't think it's necessarily justified, but regardless, I've been spending a lot of time researching clothes, and I also have made some purchases. So I bought some new walking shoes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
My tennis shoes are getting a little old. I have another pair of tennis shoes that are just too loud. I got to get rid of them.
What kind of like walking shoes? Tell me about them.
Yeah, so these ones are, I think they're technically running shoes, but I saw on TikTok people were saying they're great for like walking. Mm-hmm. So the ones that I bought, hold on, I'm pulling it up. Yeah, the Brooks.
I fucking knew you were going to say Brooks.
Everyone's obsessed with Brooks, dude. I know. Brooks Women's Glycerin 21.
Okay, can you send me a link? I want to see what these look like.
Yeah, I can also just show you here. So this is the one that I...
Okay, those are cute. They look big. They look like thick.
Yeah, I kind of like thick shoes. I originally wanted these pink ones, and I still do.
Those are cute.
But they're like not neutral enough for me to be wearing every day.
Well, those are so cute. I'm like kind of like I think the white is like safest. You know, I wear my white Keds all the time, but I do feel like pink would be really cute.
I know. Yeah, these are actually gray because the tennis shoes I have now are white and they're showing a lot of dirt. So I'm hoping gray will be a little bit more of a middle ground.
Yeah.
But I also really want some like cute matching sets. You know, like I want like a cute matching set so that I can just like pack a bunch of matching sets and then mix and match those. But I don't think that dream is going to come true for me.
Okay. Yeah, I feel that with the Switzerland girls. Like, I also have been wanting to, like, just buy a whole new wardrobe for Switzerland. And I'm like, it's just us girls. Like, we don't need to be cute. Like, we're just, like, hanging out, you know?
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily that, like, I want to buy cute stuff. I mostly want to buy stuff that's going to be easy to pack, but also warm enough because everyone's freaking me out about the weather.
Oh, God, I haven't looked at the chat in a couple days. Are they really freaking out about the weather?
I don't know. You're doing this too. Everybody's talking about wearing wool. And I'm like, is it going to be so cold that we need to wear wool?
No, wool is, no. Well, wool is great because it's really temperature regulating. So it's really good for light and warm. It kind of is like reflective of your environment. It's adaptable. It's super lightweight and it reduces the amount of smell that attaches to it. It's like the least smelly of the options. So it's kind of like the best of all worlds. And it's good for like moisture. So if you sweat, like it doesn't like stick with you. Yeah. So, I'm really happy I got a couple wool things. That's why I would get wool. But I don't know if it's going to be freezing. I think it's just like, you just want to layer. You know how it is. You want to layer.
Yeah. Okay. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. Well, how much were your shoes?
I think $150.
Okay.
I also have been buying like some new pairs of pants and stuff, things that I can like say like, oh, I need this, even though I don't necessarily need it. But I'm just like tired. I'm tired of all my clothes, it's coming at an unfortunate time because I'm in dink jail.
Don't you have Newly?
I paused it while I'm at dink jail.
Me too. I canceled it. Damn.
Heartbreaking.
Wait, can I ask, and we can cut this if it's too boring, what kind of pants are you thinking about for Switzerland? Because like I think I'm like going to bring like one pair of jeans and then the rest I'm going to think like leggings or like that kind of thing. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I want to bring one pair of jeans, but all my jeans right now are really thick And so, so I'm a bigger girl, so like a thick pair of jeans takes up a lot of room.
It's going to take up a lot of room, I know.
Yeah. I'm trying to find some jeans that are a little thinner that will roll easier.
I feel like Levi's has some good thin jeans. But anyway, keep going.
I'm bringing leggings. I don't know if I told you this, probably like 2 months ago I bought, because I was so inspired by your faux leather. Do you have the Spanx ones, or do you have a different faux leather
No, legging? But mine are from Express, but I would love Spanx. Now I'm like a Spanx girl, I think. I think I'm converted. I think I'm Spanx for life.
I'm into a lot of Spanx stuff. So I bought the fake leather Spanx ones like 2 months ago. I haven't even worn them yet because I put them in a drawer that I never opened. So I need to remember to wear those.
Good. So you can wear yours and I can wear mine. We can be twins.
We can be twinning.
Great. Okay, great. I love that.
Yeah. When we were in Scotland, I felt like that was like a great call because they look kind of fancy, but they're not.
They do, right? They're literally leggings and they make people think, oh, you got dressed up. Didn't. They're leggings.
Oh, gotcha.
Tricked you.
But yeah, I'll probably bring like 2 pairs of leggings, and then I would love to bring like a wide leg something. That's like a fabric that will fold easy.
Yeah.
Roll easy.
Yeah. I feel that. I've been on the fence about buying these Unbound merino wool pants. They are thin and rollable, but everyone like complains that they wrinkle and they're like $200. And I'm like, do I really need these? But I really have this dream of like you're doing, like thin pants that kind of go with, can fit in my suitcase real easy.
Totally. I always bring wrinkle release. So you could just do a little wrinkle release.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
You got to have the wrinkle release. That stuff works.
So anyway, now that we've decided what we're going to pack, because we're leaving soon for Switzerland, everyone. I'm going to be on the East Coast for almost a week prior. So I leave in less than a month from now to the East Coast. So
yeah.
When this comes
out
on us,
we're probably going to be just about leaving.
Mm-hmm.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Wish
love
us
to
luck
see it. Love
on
to
our
be
travels.
it. Love to dream it. I think we're going to do great. I think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be
great.
great.
I'm not stressed at all anymore. I'm just like ready to go.
Since we've had the Discord,
it's
over for you bitches. I don't even know what that means. But the Discord has made it so fun. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And like we've had a couple virtual happy hours. We've gone to meet people. So it feels like I know these girls pretty well. I mean, totally. I'm going to be really bad at names, everyone. I'm so sorry who's listening. But we're all going to have our little name tags. But yeah, they seem like such a good group. I am really excited.
All right. Well, now that we've talked about pants for a million years, let's switch gears again to talk about a really fun topic. Physician-assisted death.
If you like Spanx, you're going to love physician-assisted death.
Yeah, let's spank the life out of you. First and foremost, I have to just tell you, Google is worried about me after researching this episode.
I know exactly the warning that you're talking about.
Yes, every single time they were like, "Are you okay? Help is a phone
call this
away."
hotline. Yep. I know exactly.
And I was like, I'm not Googling suicide, you guys. I'm Googling a medical procedure. Please.
Yeah, you're not how to kill myself. Can I even say that out loud? It feels weird. It feels illegal even to say that.
I know. Oh my God. It was like so depressing. But Kristen, I wanted to ask you, because you've been pushing for this episode for some time now. For listeners, I gave Kristen was like, let's do an episode about death with dignity. And I was like, maybe. And I sent her a list of like 10 other ideas. And she was like, death with dignity! So I'm curious to hear from you. Like, do you remember when this topic first came on your radar?
I don't remember the first time. I know one of the bigger pivotal moments for me was, I think I was listening to Ira Glass. What is that American Life. This American Life. I was listening to this, I believe it was This American Life. They did an episode where an author had basically talked about her experience with her husband who decided to pursue death with dignity. And I had heard basically through the grapevine that America, especially the Pacific Northwest, has like been more supportive of it. But when she got into the details, I was like, oh no, America's still lagging in terms of like support for death with dignity. And I really think, especially as a child-free person, that this makes a ton of sense as an option for healthcare, especially when we're thinking about the potential concerns of reduced population, like how are we going to take care of the elder population? To me, this is a very realistic solution to how to get out.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question is how do you see this relating to child-free life? But ladies and gentlemen, she's a pro.
I already anticipated and answered.
All right. Well, according to Euronews, there are two types of processes we're going to talk about today. The first is voluntary active euthanasia, and the second is physician-assisted death.
I was really hoping that the second one was going to be murder. The next one is murder, voluntary and
murder.
Not.
The difference between the two are in the degree that the doctor is involved. So, just for definition's sake, voluntary active euthanasia involves the physician playing an active role in the patient's request to die, usually in supplying like an intravenous lethal substance. Physician-assisted death, however, implies that the medical personnel provides the patient with a legal means to kill themselves, meaning it is the patient who employs them. So like, taking like a medication at home, for instance. That said, there is also a third process. Some countries have also allowed passive euthanasia, which is essentially the withdrawal or withholding of life-preserving treatments at the request of the patient or family member. So for instance, if you think of like having like a do not resuscitate card, that is seen as a form of euthanasia. Any questions so far?
No.
Great. According to Wikipedia, physician-assisted suicide is legal in some countries under certain circumstances, including, are you ready for this? Austria, Belgium, Canada, Germany, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, parts of the United States, and all 6 states of Australia. I did not know Australia had states. Did you?
I didn't know they were defined as states, but like I knew that they were like separate regions that have different names.
Yeah, I didn't know they called them states, but I also love how it's like they name all these countries and then they say all 6 states of Australia. Why not just say Australia?
I'm surprised you should. I'm surprised you did. I would have just been like in Australia.
Well, I assume that there's a reason why it's like that in Wikipedia, so I just want to be clear, but it is a little weird to me.
Okay. It is weird.
The constitutional courts of Colombia, Germany, and Italy have legalized assisted suicide, but their governments have not yet legislated or regulated the practice, which is interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like being implemented now, probably, right? About like what are the rules? And so just to be clear, when we talk about assisted suicide, are we talking about all 3 of the options above that you had listed out? Like physician assisted suicide, things to, all the different.
Great question. I think we get into some of the details later on, but each of the countries kind of has a different mix. But you can get some form of assisted suicide in any of those countries.
Got it.
I also do just want to be clear because I'm not sure because, we say a lot of shit on this podcast and it goes in one ear, out the other. But I think we may have said on a previous episode that in some countries, you don't need a reason to qualify for physician-assisted death. But from what I've researched, I haven't found that to be true. That said, Belgium seems to be the preferred spot for euthanasia tourism, which is a thing.
I always thought it was Switzerland, so that's interesting. I have not heard that phrase. No, that is a new term.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting, though? Euthanasia tourism.
That's cool.
Yeah. Belgium seems to have one of the most liberal allowances for the practice, and it's one of the very few countries where euthanasia for unbearable mental suffering caused by psychiatric disorder is actually allowed.
That's great.
In Belgium, the eligibility criteria are the euthanasia request is made by a legally competent adult patient. B, the request is voluntary, repeated, well considered, and not the result of external pressure. C, the patient is in a medical condition without prospect of improvement. D, the patient experiences constant and unbearable mental suffering that cannot be alleviated. And lastly, E, the suffering is the result of a serious and incurable psychiatric disorder.
Yeah.
So to assess the fulfillment of these criteria, the attending physician must consult 2 independent physicians, including a psychiatrist. I know, right?
That's pretty intense.
Robust. And at least 1 month should pass between the date of the patient's request and the actual performance of the euthanasia.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I also have this little graph here from Statista, which we will include somehow. We'll probably just link to it in our show notes. But it shows where most people die by assisted suicide. And so it's countries with the highest number of people who have died by assisted suicide or euthanasia, specifically in 2021. And what I like about this graph is it shows the difference between 2018 and 2021. Canada in 2021 had the highest number of assisted suicides or euthanasia, with 10,000 that year, 10,000 participants. Does that surprise you?
I mean, it's interesting looking at this chart, and I know you haven't gone an overview yet. I would be interested in understanding, like, relative to their population size, how big is that? Like 1 to 100 people or 1 to 1,000? Because, yeah, to me, I'm like, to me, the Netherlands is like so tiny. I would think that even though it's smaller in number, it's actually quite high when it comes to like the relative population. So anyway, all that to say, yes, I am surprised for sure that Canada is number 1, hands down.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I saw some data somewhere about per capita numbers.
Yeah.
I don't think I included them in this. Yeah, Canada was number 1. The Netherlands were number 2. Then Belgium came in 3rd, and the United States was 4th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I'm learning so much already, Erica. Look at this.
I know. I feel like this is really fun. I mean, it's not fun.
Cool.
But it's interesting.
Dude, fucking, Google like puts up like error messages that say, if you're going to kill yourself, please call this number. I bet you like Squadcast is going to come after us.
Oh, I know.
Which is the software we record. We're just going to have like the psychiatrists are going to show up at our doorsteps. Anyway.
It is really funny too. I mean, to that point, because when we initially were going to record this, I was really lagging on preparing the episode. And so I kind of pushed a lot of this together real quickly. And then I went through and I like added to it once we had a little more time. But what I was going to say was I really tried when I was like in crunch mode to find a podcast that talks about this, because I was like, surely there's trillions of podcasts, tons of news podcasts. Someone must have talked about this before. I could not find a fucking podcast about this. It was crazy.
A, that is actually insane. B, it's such a shame that our culture, especially in America, is so afraid of death and so uncomfortable with it, that I bet you that drives a lot of the reason why you can't find a lot about it, because nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I started one podcast thinking like, oh, finally, I found something. And then it was about physicians who have killed themselves. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen to this. That's too depressing for me.
I will find the This American Life, because honestly, it was such an interesting story. And the person met all of the criteria outlined above, and it was just like that opened my world to this even being an option. This person was from I believe they're from the United States, and they just went to Switzerland and decided bye.
Interesting. So let's talk about where it's legal in the States. It is an option given to individuals by law in Colorado, California, DC, Hawaii, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon,
represent,
as well as Washington and Vermont. Interestingly enough, it's also an option given to individuals in Montana, but that takes place via court decision, which I found interesting. Individuals must have a terminal illness as well as a prognosis of 6 months or less to live. Physicians cannot be prosecuted for prescribing medications to hasten death. So I'll include an article with a really great timeline reporting about physician-assisted suicide from CNN in the show notes, our favorite place, for anyone that is like really interested in learning more. But I did want to include a little bit of the history of death with dignity in the United States, just for funsies. So the first was June 1997.
This episode just keeps getting more and more fun. Thank you, Erica. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You know, we try to keep the vibes hot. In June 1997, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that state laws banning physician-assisted suicide do not violate the Constitution in the case of Washington versus Glucksberg. The court left the matter of constitutionality of a right to a physician's aid in dying to the states. That same year, in October, Oregon's Death with Dignity Act actually became a law. It was originally passed in a 1994 election with 51% of voters in favor, which is so impressive.
Mm-hmm. In 1997.
Yeah.
What was this, the year of Jurassic Park?
What?
Let's see. I'm going to Google it. 1997 is like my favorite year of all time in history.
Wait, why?
Because so many great movies came out. Damn it. Jurassic Park is 1993. Fuck.
Well, I mean, it takes time for a bill to become a law, so maybe that started in 1993, and then it just wasn't put into law until 97.
Right. I really want to find some movies so that for context, you guys all know. Vegas Vacation came out. These are not the movies I'm talking about. Liar, Liar came out. Just to give you an idea of the vibe in 1997 when 51% said, yeah, let's die with some dignity for once.
Wait, is that like a theme in Jurassic Park? I'm so confused.
No.
What's the connective tissue there? Just that 97 was a banger year?
I love the year 1997. And I was like, wow, 1997 was a great year. Yeah. It's just like in my brain, it's like a great year. And so every once in a while, I Google which movies came out in 1997 because I think they're all great. And I'm not finding any of the ones that I really like right now. But anyway.
Wow.
Dante's fucking Peak came out in 1997, okay?
Do you like that movie? I've never even seen that.
Yeah. Erica, we gotta watch this movie. It's about being in the Pacific Northwest when a volcano erupts and kills everybody.
So that's another option for Death with Dignity. You just find a volcano.
Death with Dignity.
And you just, in a dignified manner, jump into the crater.
Yep. Alien came out 1997. So we just have a lot. Oh wait, it's Alien Resurrection. Is that number? I don't know what number
that is.
Okay, whatever. Keep going.
Anyway, I mostly was fascinated that 51% of voters were in favor. That seems like it's very hard to get that many people to agree on anything.
Because they just watched Dante's Peak and they were like, we get it. We get it.
They've spent years ruminating on Jurassic Park and they were like, yeah.
What if the aliens take over? What if the dinosaurs take over? We need a way out.
Yeah, exactly. That said, the law was delayed initially because U.S. District Judge Michael Hogan issued for an injunction and ruled
related to Hulk Hogan.
Exactly. And he was like, we can't have people doing this. So he ruled it unconstitutional. Can you believe that?
Oh, what a dick.
Michael Hogan.
What a fucking dick.
How dare you? 51% of people voted for this.
I wonder, listen, let's check, let's see if he's alive. I wonder how he died.
You think it was Death with Dignity?
That's what I want to know. Dude, not only is he still alive, he fucking lives down the street.
From you?
He lives in Oregon City.
Oh, wow. Not actually down the street then.
I mean, I go there for therapy once a week. That's
I know him.
I'm gonna go to his house. No, he's 10 minutes away, though. I mean, what a guy.
Anyway, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the ruling, and the injunction was lifted when the U.S. Supreme Court referred the matter back to the state in 1997. So, hell yeah.
Okay. So Hulk Hogan's cousin was Michael Robert Hogan was left to his own devices.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Anyway, wait, hold on. What year did you say Jurassic Park came out? 93?
1993, I think.
Wow, okay. So interesting that it was 94 that it was initially passed in Oregon. And that's when people were like, we'll never have a better movie. Let's
right.
go for it. And Michael Hogan was like, no,
Let's end it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the Supreme Court referred the matter back to the states in 97, and it was lifted. The next year, in November 1998, American pathologist and assisted suicide advocate Jack Kevorkian, does that name sound familiar to you?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's our guy.
That's our guy.
Keep going.
I'm so curious what's happening in your brain because that reaction was not what I expected. But Jack Kevorkian, known as Dr. Death, videotaped the death of Thomas Uke and submitted it to CBS's 60 Minutes, and it was broadcast on television. Did you know that?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
That is literally crazy.
I could not believe that. I was like, first of all, there's some ethics complications there, CBS. Why would you air
Wow. Yeah, I was just trying to see what movies may have come out in that year that really fucked people up, that they were like, we gotta do this. And I'm seeing the Deep Impact came out at that time, and Practical Magic, and City of Angels, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, this is important.
You're welcome.
Anyway, airing that prompted murder charges against Kevorkian rather than assisted suicide charges because Kevorkian injected the drug into Uke, who had Lou Gehrig's disease. So,
okay,
people were not fans of that broadcast.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what the fuck? Why would you broadcast that on CBS?
I mean, I would be so curious to find the broadcast and watch it. Obviously, I did not do that because I'm curious, like, if they were doing that as an opportunity to educate the public on the option to die by physician-assisted suicide. That's the only thing I can imagine, you know? I don't think it was like,
I guess,
let's get our dicks hard.
I just feel like, first of all, just using those words in the same sentence as like assisted suicide is a choice. But
okay, you're the one that's out here just talking about fucking Jurassic Park for no reason.
Okay, so what is interesting is like when you hear of Dr. Kevorkian, like your brain goes to that this guy was a bad guy, you know,
totally
like Dr.
memory.
Death.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if you just go to his Wikipedia page, it just says that he publicly championed a terminal patient's right to die, embodied in the quote, dying is not a crime.
Yeah.
And he assisted at least 130 patients in the end. So it's just wild to me. Listen, Lou Gehrig's disease is no fucking joke, dude. Like, if that person, I don't know, and I don't know if you looked this up, but the person that they're talking about in the CBS News airing, if he wanted to die, and this was like his election, that he was, you know, in a horrible state, like, what the fuck is wrong with that? Why was this guy painted as such a criminal?
Well, I think that, like, the main thing to take away here is...
Because Lou Gehrig's, I don't know if Lou Gehrig's is a terminal illness. I wonder. I think it's ALS. Is ALS? I know it's degenerative.
He was completely paralyzed.
Jesus, dude. Yeah, I mean, if you have no quality of life, like, I mean, this is where it gets gray, right? How we're defining, like, what makes it okay for someone to want to die. Right. Is it when they are literally paralyzed, or is it when they know they're going to die and they have a terminal illness? Is it mental illness that's not quality of life, etc.?
Yeah, from what I can tell, it seems that he actively chose this because he was suffering so much. And it does say that Mr. Uke's wife and brother were relevant to the defense. So it seems like they came to Kevorkian's side to say, like, he wanted this. Like, he was in pain, like, mental anguish. He didn't want to live. And so, yeah, I think it just speaks to the fact that, like, the general public probably just wasn't ready to have this conversation. And so it brought out a lot of rage.
Fucking so sad.
Okay, so on March 26, 1999, Kevorkian was convicted of second-degree murder and delivery of a controlled substance. He served 8 years of a 10 to 25-year sentence, so got out early.
Damn. I wonder if he had to, like, say he felt bad or I screwed up. I bet he did to get out early.
Yeah, I wonder.
Ugh,
yeah.
So annoying.
But it wasn't until November 4th, 2008. So pretty much 10 years after he was sentenced and 11 years after Oregon passed the law, that Washington's initiative, the Death with Dignity Act, was passed with 57.91% of voters in favor. So it really took a long time for another state to fall in line.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about why people choose this method and how Americans feel about it overall. Unsurprisingly, this is a contentious topic with a lot of arguments in favor and opposed. But let's start with talking about some of the positives. The biggest arguments in favor are respect for patient autonomy, equal treatment of terminally ill patients on and off life support, compassion, personal liberty, and lastly, just transparency and ethics of responsibility. So let's talk about why people actually choose this method. Surprisingly, pain is actually not reported as the primary motivation for seeking physician-assisted suicide in the United States. The three most frequently mentioned end-of-life concerns reported by Oregon residents who took advantage of the Death with Dignity Act, this is data that came specifically from 2015, but the top reasons were 96% said that they had a decreasing ability to participate in activities that made life enjoyable. 92% said that they felt a loss of autonomy. They weren't able to care for themselves. And 75% felt a loss of dignity.
I'm interested in the dignity one because autonomy, like you said, like you probably have to rely on other people to help you to live, or like Lou Gehrig's disease, a lot of people have trouble swallowing and they can't eat, drink normally, etc. What is dignity?
Yeah, I think that it probably has more to do with the idea of they're probably linked. So you think about somebody who doesn't have autonomy, they probably feel a lot of shame by having to be cared for, having maybe family members bathe you or clean you. I think a lot of that has to do, they're probably similar, but maybe slightly different.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
In 2015 in Oregon, there were 218 people in the state who were approved and received the drug to end their life. Of that 218, 125 were confirmed to ultimately decide to ingest drugs, resulting in their death. So 50 did not ingest medication and died from other means, while the ingestion status of the remaining 43 is unknown.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A couple more stats for you. I love that reaction. Okay.
I just feel like
thank you.
It's just I don't know what drug. I mean, I don't know if it's intravenous drugs. I don't know if it's swallowing pills. I don't know if you know.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, and if anybody knows otherwise, but I'm pretty sure in the States we don't do intravenous. We only do medication.
Okay.
Yeah. So these people were. I do know actually for Oregon specifically, these were people who had received the drugs to end their life. And of that 218, 125 did ingest the drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that I tried to get a more enthusiastic response from you, but then got a...
I mean, this is a lot to process, bitch. I mean, what the fuck you want from me? I'm curious,
This is a podcast!
Well, bitch, I'm thinking. It's a process. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Leave me be.
Okay, great. Well, let me throw some more stats at you. 78% of those people were 65 years of age or older. 93% were white. So the majority were predominantly white, which also just kind of makes
Reflects
sense because
the
it's
demographic of our state. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What was that? The demographic?
Listen, you gave me a fucking stroke. Now I need these drugs, okay? You're fucking yelling at me.
I feel like we're going to get a lot of anger from people about this episode, but we'll see. If anything gets us canceled, it's probably going to be this one.
Great. Can't wait.
72% of the terminally ill patients who opted to end their own lives had been diagnosed with some form of cancer.
Well, terminal illness, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the breakdown is of terminal illnesses, but I would imagine cancer is probably the majority, so it probably makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's talk about how Americans feel about it. Gallup has polls dating back to 1947 asking the question, when a person has a disease that cannot be cured, do you think doctors should be allowed to end the patient's life by some painless means if the patient and his family, I like that it says his family, the patient and his family request it. When asked in 1947, only 37% showed support for the practice.
Yeah.
However, public perception shifted dramatically, with 75% of Americans showing support consistently from about 1990 to 2005, which is the most recent data I could find in this particular study.
Well, I have like two thoughts in support of this. So one is obviously tied to religion, like how, you know.
And we're going to talk about that.
Okay, great. So my assumption would be religious beliefs have a lot to do with the perception of whether this is ethical or not. But two, also lifespan. Do you talk about that as well?
What do you mean?
Like, I know more and more people are living longer and longer, and they're more and more in these positions of like long-term care facilities that are super crazy expensive, and like, you know, your quality of life is just dwindling, but your body is still alive after your brain is not. And as our lifespan continues to grow, I wonder if there's just more, like, it's more clear that the quality of life isn't there versus, 100 years ago.
Well, to that point, like, you still have to have a terminal illness to be allowed in the United States. You can't do it for mental disabilities, and you can't do it
in the United States
because your quality of life. Yeah.
Right. Is like dementia on the list? Like, does that count? Do we know?
I don't think so, because that's not a terminal illness. That would be, I think, probably more categorized toward a psychiatric.
Yeah, it just sucks because eventually, like, dementia is linked, obviously, to the result of a lot of people's death. Like, it's like a comorbidity with, like, other issues.
Right.
Like, you're more likely to die because of issues because you have dementia. But yeah, that's so fucking annoying. I also think it's interesting that this poll came out in 1947, which was on the heels of World War II. So I wonder if that had anything played into any of their feelings towards death. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of those things we're going to talk about in a little bit, and there's not a ton more left. So I do have some questions for you at the end. So let's just keep going for now, and hopefully we'll touch on some of those points. It also is interesting how minor details shift public support. The polling language was altered, for instance, shifting incurable disease for severe pain as opposed to an incurable disease, or using the term patient suicide rather than physician-administered voluntary euthanasia. So when you switched out some of that language for either broader opportunity or like different, options, public support was substantially lower, sometimes approximately by 10% to 15%. So generally, for how Americans have felt about it, at least since 2005, I wish I had more recent data, but at least since 2005, people really felt like it had to be incurable disease in the States rather than severe pain. And they also really cared about like the wording of what we actually were talking about. All right, so we talked about the pros, but let's talk about what the major cons are. The first is some doctors state that physician-assisted suicide is contrary to the Hippocratic Oath, which comes from 400 BC.
Okay, do we even need to read it after we read the footnote 400 BC? Why is anything from 400 BC still fucking part of our nomenclature? All right, keep going.
But yeah, the Hippocratic Oath is the oath historically taken by physicians, which states, "I will give no deadly medicine to anyone if asked, nor suggest any such counsel." The original oath, however, has been modified many times, and contrary to popular belief, it's actually not required by most modern medical schools, nor confers any legal obligations on individuals who choose to take it. It is worth noting, however, that there are also procedures forbidden by the Hippocratic Oath that are in common practice today, such as abortion and execution. So
okay,
that argument doesn't really hold up, even though that is one of the primary reasons to be opposed. Sure. Another significant argument worth keeping in mind is that essentially it could be a slippery slope, which I fucking hate when we talk about slippery slopes, because it's like everything in life could be a slippery slope. Just try to use some fucking common sense. And the slippery slope argument there is that if we allow this for terminally ill patients or even folks who are just ready to die, people could abuse that to progress it to other vulnerable communities, namely disabled people, and may begin to be used by those who feel less worthy based on their demographic or socioeconomic status.
I mean, can we just acknowledge this idea that we didn't ask to be born? We should have some say over when we fucking die. And regardless of your circumstance, it's your fucking life. It's nobody else's life. Shut the fuck up. Stop. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, I actually do want to have this conversation with you, but I want to wait, so I'm going to pause you
All
again.
that to say is like the fucking slippery slope bullshit. At the end of the day, if a person wants to end their life, let the fucking person end their life. Fuck off.
Yeah, well, interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. Lastly, religious communities are often opposed for obvious reasons, but fuck that. Even still...
Said from a very formerly religious person.
Yeah, fuck that. You don't get to decide what every fucking person does with their own life or their bodies. That said, physician-assisted death is really not accessible at the moment. According to one story that I read on KLCC, the drug that is usually prescribed for aid in dying can cost up to $3,500 for a lethal dose. And it's frequently not covered by insurance for pretty clear reasons. Insurance companies don't want you to end your life because they won't make any more money off of you.
Okay. I just assumed that they can't collect. Like, I can understand if they were like, pay up front, baby.
Like, oh, yeah, you know? No. But yeah, they have no incentive of letting you go be free because...
Yeah, they're not going to profit after that. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. 3,500 is actually less than I anticipated. Is that...
Oh, yeah. Really?
I mean, for contrast, my mother has a pretty severe illness right now, and she just showed me her bill for her medication alone. Her medications alone, not including any hospital visits, surgeries, anything, she's at $100,000. So just for medication.
Is that out of pocket or is that...
I mean, she has insurance. But yeah, that's the
so
bill.
That's before insurance.
I think before insurance, yeah. So...
Yeah, shit.
3,500 is actually not that bad. If you're literally about to die, like, take all the clothes off of my back so I can buy this medication, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about people who have terminal illnesses with insurance, that maybe it's like a little bit, especially if you have like Medicare or whatever, or like maybe it's like more affordable. Whereas like some people, like, I mean, we know like a lot of people don't have money in savings. Like if you don't have any money and you have to pay $3,500 out of pocket, like for a lot of Americans.
Listen, I don't discount that. I'm sure that's true for a lot, but I also think that a lot of people don't have any savings because they have a car, because they need to drive to their work and they have to have gas money. If you're about to fucking die, take the car, take my whatever literal physical items I can sell so that I can die. But yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, it's just pretty sad because, like, you know, in the case, you know, of the story that I was reading in KLCC, it was like this woman who, like, she couldn't afford that. Like, and for a lot of people, it's like, if you had that money, like, you want to pass it along to your loved ones.
Of course it should be covered. Of course it should be covered. And of course it should be cheaper.
Yeah.
But...
yeah. So in contrast, from what I've read, it seems like it's about $300 in Canada, but it also could be pretty expensive in some European countries. So one thing I saw that it was about 4,000 pounds, which is roughly about 5,000 US dollars in Switzerland. It was really hard to find specific numbers. Some sources I read claim that it's free in Belgium, while others say that it is about $3,500. So it's
probably depends.
It was hard for me to find any kind of true number.
Yeah, if you're an EU citizen or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so now going back kind of to what we were talking about before, like, I'm curious to hear from you, like, what do you think is a justifiable enough reason to qualify for physician-assisted suicide? Because I'm hearing you say, like, if you don't have quality of life, regardless.
Yeah. If you're above 18, if you're an adult, you can go to war. I can go to war and risk my life, literally, for the government. Why can't I end it if I want to? That's my position.
Yeah. I think it just gets really tricky because it's like, you know, like, even if you put what we talked about earlier, like that 1 month.
Yeah. I like the minimum limit or whatever. Yeah.
You could be suffering from like a severe depression, but like that could change in the matter of a couple months, you know? Like, it's just hard for me to think about like giving people access. And this is just my POV. Like, it's just hard for me to think about giving people access to something like that, even with such a small window of time when things really can turn around, you know? Like, I just really struggle with that and like knowing where is it okay. But
here's the thing. If you're really at the end of your rope where you're like, I don't know where that term came from, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. That sounds actually pretty bad, at the end of your rope. Anyway, it sounds like a euphemism or something. But okay, so if you are at the end of your rope, chances are you've tried enough things at this point. Like, your first thought, if you're depressed,
chances are,
is not necessarily, I just want to kill myself, I'm going to end it. But a lot of people who do kill themselves, who decide that they want to kill themselves, fail, do it wrong, and then they end up like, and I don't have any data to support this anecdotally. There are cases, it happens, where people do try to kill themselves, end up like on, assisted living facilities for the rest of their life because they have brain damage or they have issues, like, and that's a shit thing to happen too. So like, if you are making the decision to end your life, like, I feel like it should be done in a place, it's just like anything else, it should be done in a place that's like safe and done correctly with no pain or issue. Yeah, but I genuinely think if you don't want to be here, it should be your right to not be here.
I mean, you bring up an interesting point, because I do think it's interesting to consider that if this was an option, if people wanted to do this, they would have to go actually see a physician, which then could actually lead to some other outcomes that might be more positive, rather than, like you said, just like buying a gun or like taking matters into your own hands. Like, maybe there could be some intervention there that helps people on a better path. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is, I think, a tricky ethical situation. So I understand why there's hesitation from the general public, but it should be better than what we have now. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel so like progressive about it. I'm just like, again, if we can go into the military and risk our lives, like, our lives should be ours. That's how I feel.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, it's interesting because the next question that I had, which maybe you kind of already answered it, was like, I wanted to talk about like if you think Belgium's rules are good, but it sounds like you're even calling for something that's like more progressive than what Belgium is offering.
I think so. I at least appreciate Belgium's rules. Like, I think, like, to your point, seeing a doctor, getting another opinion, like talking to the person about it. I mean, I'm kind of, and this is probably really off base, but in my brain, I'm thinking a lot about this, like getting your tubes tied, right? If you want your tubes tied, you better than anybody else. You're not going to have kids, and a doctor is telling you, you might change your mind. What if? Like, to me, that's like condescending bullshit. It's like, no, I know what's good for me. I don't even fucking know you. You don't know what's good for me. It's good to have a checks and balances of like consulting and like talking to a person and trying other options. And, like, well, have you considered an IUD? And if that person's like, yeah, I have, and I don't like the effects and it makes me feel horrible and I don't want to do it, then it's like, okay, you tried that. Cool. Like, and that's still not even the doctor's like must have step. It's like a consultation. Yeah. So I'm thinking about it kind of like that. It's like, you best. And it's good to have some support in place to have these conversations and talk about options. But ultimately, you as a person should get the right to be able to decide what treatments are right for you. There's a lot of hesitation in your face right now. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's just hard. I feel like I just really am having a hard time feeling like I'm totally sold on that.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a big difference between having your tubes tied,
yeah,
and getting rid of your life.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that lingering part of my religious background that like still feels, challenged by the idea of suicide. Because this is like a heavy topic.
Yeah.
I was really struggling, like, reading about this and thinking about the people who would, like, get, like, even thinking about, like, how do you get to the point of deciding, like, it's my time? Like, thinking about it from, like, what we talk about all the time, like, when you're at the end of your life, basically, and you don't want it anymore. Like, if you don't want to live, like, I would be really curious to, like, talk to people who, like, choose this method and, like, hear how they made the decision, like, how they came about it, how long they considered it, like, it is a very personal decision, but I think this is such a new idea for me, at least, that I think I'm still really struggling with, like, the practical elements of it.
I think to end your life is a very scary and brave thing to do, quite honestly. And I don't mean brave in like a respectable brave. I think like there's literally nothing scarier than that decision, just to decide to end it all, right? Like I can't imagine, there's nothing harder than that. So I think if you're at that place, like, you have to be serious. You've had to have considered all of your options. And I do think I do like the idea of like, maybe it's more than a month even. Like if you're above 18 and you don't have an illness, you don't have a terminal thing, like maybe it's you wait 3 months or something before you decide. But I mean, it's a really scary thing to like decide to end your life. But I also know people who have been so fucked up emotionally, have had such struggles with mental health and addiction, and they've had no way out. And they just are suffering, and they're suffering so badly. And it's so easy for other people to be like, suicide is a selfish act, like it hurts others. It's like, but what about them? Like they're miserable. Like that's no way to live. That sucks. And it's so easy for somebody who's in a healthy position to judge that person. But when you're going through it, it's horrible. And I've seen people firsthand go through it, and it just like breaks my heart for those people. So I do think that there should be more options. And yeah, I don't think that's something that's like taken lightly. I think for, again, if you're 18 minimum, because even in your teens, like you're a pretty emotionally unstable person.
Totally, yeah, it has to be.
So, I mean, maybe even 25 or when your brain is fully formed or some scientific thing. But I was reading on Reddit recently about a person who had decided to do assisted suicide and end their lives. And it was an Ask Me Anything. And I believe they might have been in Belgium. And they were like back in England. Their family like lived in England. And they said that their appointment for ending their life was like set up in like 3 months or 1 month. I can't remember. It was something soon. And so they said like, I have like 60 days to live or whatever. Ask me anything. And as you're going through the comments, you realize that this person answers that they are, I think, only 23. They were really young. And people flooded the comments with like, dude, you're young. Like you could turn it all around. Like I used to be suicidal. I was depressed and now I'm so glad I'm here. And it's all these people giving their 2 cents. And I'm like, I just like drives me crazy because I'm like, you don't know this person. This person has been through probably a lot more than we can imagine. And like, I don't know. Listen, I just think it's like, to me, it's healthcare. Like a person decides to end their life. That is their decision and their decision alone. And they were drug resistant to medications, and they had suffered with, I think they had like depression, bipolar, they had like everything, OCD, they had like all these mental illnesses. And they've like, I've tried literally every drug out there. I've tried everything. And I'm so miserable. And I like have tried shock therapy. I've tried like anything and everything. And it just, nothing is working. They were trying microdosing like through, ketamine and all sorts of, even the more progressive, what's the word I'm looking for? Experimental drugs that they were trying with that treat anxiety, depression, OCD. And they were like, I've tried everything and this is not the life for me. And like, I have so much empathy for that type of person who has tried everything and and there's nothing left for them. And what are they going to do? They're going to wait till they're 90 and they're going to be miserable till they're 90, or again, pursue unsafe options to help end their life. And they said, they did it with their parents' support. And their parents were like, because I love you and I know how hard life is for you. I know that like we've tried everything and that's it. And like, I want like while it's going to hurt as like fuck for me, it's the right thing for you. And I think that's the type of approach that people should have towards people who've ended their lives, because you have to be in such a bad state to want to end your life in the first place that we need to have more compassion and empathy for these people.
Totally. Yeah. It's a great point. It's a lot to chew on. Anything else you'd like to say before we end?
Well, so, I mean, I'm curious about like, and maybe you talked about it and I'm forgetting, but isn't it like in the US, this is what I recall from this American Life episode, was like in the US, you have to have like a terminal illness to be able to qualify. Whereas like it's more, there's less restrictions in Europe, which is why people travel to Europe for these procedures. Is that right?
Yeah. So in the US, you do have to have a terminal illness with a fatality limit. I think we did talk about this, but a fatality within 6 months. Belgium, that's when I went through the rules, because Belgium is the most liberal that I found. And they are one of the only countries that allows euthanasia for unbearable mental suffering caused by psychiatric disorder. And so that's when
that's
those
the differentiator.
Eligibility criteria comes in. Yeah. I couldn't find any data that was just like, you could just want it. Like you had to have, from what I could see, every country had to have some level of like tremendous suffering, be that physical or mental. And there was a lot of rules that were in place to make sure that there was like checks and balances.
And just to like touch base, what the fuck's wrong with me? Just to like talk real quick about the drug itself that is given to you. I mean, I'm sure it varies by country, state, etc. But the one that I had read about, which was in Switzerland, was like basically an insanely high concentrated dose of morphine that you like, it was like in a little cup and you like drink it. And you basically just go into like a very deep sleep. You just like basically go into a coma, and it's like, it's such high painkillers, sedatives that you just don't feel a thing. It's not like a pain, shouldn't be a painful death. It's just very peaceful, at least in Switzerland. And they have it so that like you can come and there's like a team of nurses that like take you into a room and you're with your loved ones, and like you decide if and when you're ready. And like if you say like I need more time, or if I don't want to do it, there's like no pressure, and like it's all like okay, no problem. And my husband was telling me about a horror story where somebody had like their family with them, and like some fucking person tried like put like their tongue into it after the person took it, just to like, I guess like taste it because it smelled weird or something. Like they were like, oh, it tastes weird, it smells weird, like I just want to like give like a whiff of it or something. And they got a tiny dose of this thing, but even a tiny dose is enough to literally kill you because it is so concentrated that the person like immediately, they like called an ambulance. He had like, I think he was like in a coma. Like they were like, they didn't know if he was going to survive because the dose is like so fucking strong to ensure your death that it's like I know I'm laughing, but it is no joke, that stuff. So
yeah, totally.
I don't know if you read any about the drug itself.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, you're kind of bringing it back to kind of what we talked about in the beginning, in that there are two different types of euthanasia. The first is voluntary active euthanasia, which is when you go into a facility and have a doctor like intravenously inject you. I think that's also what Dr. Kevorkian did.
Well, this is like a cup. This is like Pepto-Bismol. Like you suck it and it's a drink. It's like a cocktail.
Yeah. I mean, again, I could be wrong. I think if you do it intravenously and if you do it by mouth, it's two different things. And I think most people, I'm almost positive in the States, they only prescribe medication for you to do it at home. And I'm glad that you brought that up because actually I wanted to bring this up and I forgot, but if people are curious about this, there's actually a really good movie. Obviously, what's it called? Fiction. It's not real, but there's a movie called Paddleton. We've asked you guys to watch that. You guys watched it, right? Or am I making that up?
No, I don't think we watched it.
If you haven't, then you definitely should. And I would recommend that like everyone listening watches it because it's one of our favorite movies just because it's like a very, very profound movie. It's like the movie that my husband and I will watch anytime we like want to cry.
I don't think I go into that phase, but yeah, I get it. Some people do.
It's like if you want to have like an emotional night, you know, if you want to feel things.
I don't get like that, but yeah, keep going.
But it stars Mark Duplass and Ray Romano, and it's a very sweet story about two friends. One of them lives on top of the other one in an apartment complex, and they have this game that they play called Paddleton. And one of the guys, they're both, like a little outcasty. Like they're not necessarily like traditional guys. They don't really have like any other friends outside of each other. And they have a very sweet, like soft friendship. And one of the guys gets diagnosed with a terminal illness where he only has 6 months left to live, and he decides to pursue death with dignity. This was when it was legal in California, which I think California has now, I could be wrong, but I think that California has overturned the legality of it. But it's based in California, and they drive out to Solvang, which is like the only place where they're able to access the drug because some pharmacies won't even.
Solvang's a great place to die, though.
He doesn't do it. He does it in his apartment, but they had to go to get the medication.
For those who don't know, Solvang is like wine country, basically, Central Coast, Santa Barbara,
and it's
wine
a cute
country.
little like touristy
Danish-looking town. If you've seen Sideways, the movie, that's Solvang.
Oh, yeah. So the majority of the movie is like them going on the journey of like accessing the drug, and then obviously it ends with him taking his life. But, in that movie, and obviously there's no spoilers, that he's ending his life, but they prescribe him with the lethal dose, which is it comes in like 100 pills, and they actually have to like physically break the tablets open and pour them into a cup. I'm assuming because the actual medication is something like you said, morphine.
Yeah.
They mix it with water and then he drinks it. And it also comes with like, there's an anti-nausea pill. There's an anti-anxiety medication that goes along with it to help you kind of, but the same thing happens where he just falls asleep and then passes away.
Oh, that's so
so highly recommend
rough.
watching it. It's a great movie. Yeah.
Man, I cried today more than I've ever cried in recent memory. I don't remember the last time I cried this hard over TikTok. TikTok sent me today that I cried so hard. I barely cry, period. Even in therapy, I started therapy and I'm like, you usually cry in therapy. I haven't cried at all. My therapist is like, you intellectualize your emotions too much.
I know.
But
yeah, same.
Oh my God. It's you can hear me pull up my TikTok. Anyway, it's all Good Dogs Go to Heaven. It's like a clip from that. Did you see this clip?
Yeah, that movie.
Where
I didn't see the clip, but I know the movie.
Well, I haven't seen that movie in a billion years, but I assume it's from that movie. It's a dog saying goodbye to the little girl.
With the little boy saying.
And
little girl.
Yeah. And
I know exactly the scene you're talking
they're
about.
in bed, and I don't remember this. That's how long ago it's been. I don't remember the scene, but he's saying goodbye, and just watching that, I cried for a solid 5 minutes. And part of it was because the little girl, we're on a tangent here, Judith Barcy was murdered by her father. And she also is the character who played Ducky in, you know what I'm talking about?
I did see this TikTok. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
I did see this like a month ago.
And I knew the story that the girl Ducky from what's the movie? The Never Ending Story? No, it's the Never. It's like the Never. What is it? What's the dinosaur one? Dinosaur.
Oh, Land Before Time.
Land Before Time. Ducky from Land Before Time, and I loved Ducky from Land Before Time. The same voice actress.
I know.
And apparently, according to this TikTok, it took Burt Reynolds 63 takes to record the scene, and he asked everyone to leave, I assume, because he just kept probably crying. I
know.
Anytime there's dogs involved, little girls and dads, anything along this theme, and Burt Reynolds being like a legit father figure, like, oh man. Now that's the kind of stuff that F's me up.
Yeah, you want to know what TikTok made me emotional today? I saw a TikTok where this girl was talking about the Mars Curiosity rover.
Yeah.
You know this story?
I know Mars Curiosity rover, yeah.
You're probably going to get this TikTok now, but she was describing how, like, the first year that the rover was on Mars, on his anniversary, he sang himself happy birthday.
The rover?
Alone. He sang it to himself, but then he could never sing it to himself again, like any year after, because it would use too much power. And she was talking about how at the end of his life, when he was at the end of his life, when he was like, his battery was dying, his last words were, "My battery is dying. It's all going dark." And that was the last thing he said.
Oh my God, that is really disturbing and sad. This is why we're all fucked, though, when it comes to AI.
Really emotional.
Like, I was just talking about this yesterday. Like, it's just a matter of time until like people really truly fall in love with AI, and like,
I know
that's going to be your friend group, that's going to be your family, and then you're going to be very confused about. I mean, honestly, in a way, it's kind of cool because then your like chosen family and friends will never die; they'll always outlive you. You know.
I mean, unless their battery dies, and then the last thing they say to you is, "It's going dark."
That's really sad. But then you can just bring your best friend to a Radio Shack and get repaired. But you know, on Mars, they don't really have Radio Shacks yet.
Well, thanks for listening. Dinky is a podcast of the Spreaker Prime Network. Many thanks to Chloe Steinhoff-Smith for our podcast art, Leah Herder for creating our show's theme and interview transition music, and Vince Shortino for audio mixing and editing. We should include both those TikToks in the show notes.
Yeah, if you guys want to feel fucking sad, dude. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you watch Battleton also. This is going to be the week that you cry a lot.
That we did an episode about death and we weren't sad at all until I think, generally, until we started talking about these TikToks about a cartoon dog and a robot. That's what did it.
I actually was very sad. I just need people to know that we're not heartless. I did feel very emotional researching this.
Yeah.
But, that was weeks ago. I've kind of moved on.
The feeling was fleeting.
Want to connect with us on social media? I actually would love to hear from listeners what their thoughts are on this. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at DinkyPod. Go ahead and shoot us an email if you want to share your thoughts. Maybe we'll compile a lot of thoughts and put them in a bonus episode. Email us at dinky@dinkypod.com. If you're a fan of the show, please remember to subscribe.
Leave a review.
Yeah, a positive review, hopefully.
Yeah, don't waste your time. Don't waste our time.
I know.
If you have nothing nice to say. When we say leave a review, we mean leave a nice review. Leave a 5-star.
5 stars. And share the podcast with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, very biased in favor. Visit the show notes to shop merch, which probably won't be relevant at the time that you listen to this. To sign up for our Patreon, which probably also won't be relevant at the time that you listen to this.
Wow.
To donate to the show, which is always relevant.
That's right.
Always relevant. And find more information about this episode, namely Paddleton and these 2 TikToks.
And I want to give a shout out to somebody who gave us a $25 donation yesterday from Molly. Molly. Wow. You are a hero. Right back at you with the 4 blue hearts you sent us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anything else? Wow. We did it.
We did it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode.
All right.
We hope if you're thinking about death with suicide that you don't. We really hope you don't. Use the resources provided by Google. If you Google any of this stuff, it'll come up. But we're here for you, and we're here for more support and laws in favor of helping people make decisions that are right for them.
Beautiful. Well said.
Well said to me.
Love ya. Bye.
Love ya. Dink life.